considering the latest, since we consider all actions.
Considering the latest what?
Yeah, it should be
correspondence
the,
and stuff.
You'll have to
that's
clearly
not-
lay out the reason for case.
And
Yeah, there's correspondence from the Greenways Committee dealing with,
Seymour Bay.
Seymour Bay and Councillor Dunn
Yeah.
and Councillor Jennings have declared that there is a possibility of a conflict in any discussion on that. Therefore, I appreciate it if you take a few minutes out. Thanks, Dave. There are a number of reasons why I think the Greenways Committee should be put quietly away. One of them is that in the original bylaw, which was passed on the 25th of March 2008, so it's been around for 4 years. The mandate of the Greenways Advisory Committee, in part, at 5.2, was that the committee shall recommend to staff and council ways to implement Greenway initiatives on Bowen Island. That's another, in other words, what that's saying is that the committee shall recommend to staff what staff and council should be discussing. It's not the way it happens. It's the wrong document. It's badly written, with all due respect to the previous councils. And then it goes on to say at 5.3, the committee shall provide ongoing input and direction for future Bowen Island municipality parks and outdoor recreation. Shall provide ongoing input and direction. And that's council's job. That's what we were elected to do. And it's the same thing for giving direction to staff. That's what we were asked to do. That's why we were elected. And the thing that's driven that home, and that nobody wants to deal with, is just the latest correspondence that's hit the newspaper, which I personally think is really insulting. I'm not speaking for the two councillors who are not here. I just think it's really insulting that the chairperson took it upon herself to write this inflammatory letter. And I want you to know it's inflamed me enough that I want to get rid of Greenways. I want to go back to the old Parks and Recreation with a limited power. And that's the way it should be. It should be, as with all committees of council, limited in what it can do on the instructions of council, not what they feel like doing and coming back to us. And I'm really upset about the chairperson writing this this letter and voicing the committee's, if it was the committee's views. I'm really concerned with it because this morning, or early this afternoon, when I was getting off the ferry, I'm watching a logging truck go rumbling by. And that logging truck, I'm presuming, was logging an area that was supposed to be a park, a 300-acre park, or 70%, whatever 70% Cape Roger Curtis. And there are these beautiful logs, beautiful trees going by me, and I'm thinking, you know, that's real foresight, to think about how we can have this incredible park in the south end of the island for use by everybody, not just people who are concerned with the flora and fauna of Fairy Fen, but it's insulting to me that we lose something and all we get is criticism. So I think we should get rid of Greenways, give it back to Parks and Recreation, and let's get on with what an ordinary municipality would do. So I'm going to hopefully ask staff to direct to prepare a repeal bylaw of Bowen Island municipality shortly. Any comments before?
So the idea is to replace this fairly quickly
Yes.
with a Parks and Recs committee? How far away?
We have
from that?
it's part of the bylaw, or the old bylaw, sorry.
We have Parks and Recreation Commission on hiatus, and I think as Councillor Morse pointed out, one of the issues with having it under one commission was they dealt with different subjects. So I think the idea would be to reinstitute a Parks Committee. And Christine Walker, our Recreation Supervisor, will be bringing forward a Recreation Commission establishment bylaw soon.
And so that would be part of.
There would be two separate committees.
And how long would that process take to get?
I could commit to having terms of reference for a Trails Committee on the 23rd of April.
Mayor, I'm wondering if, in terms of trying to, I know it's not your objective personally, but I'm wondering in terms of trying to keep the peace, if there's a way to sculpt this motion so we, instead of a full rescindment, which to some is just gonna be a complete slap, why don't we, this is my suggestion, why don't we try and have it so we're transitioning from the Greenways Committee into
Parks and
into creating the terms of reference for the Parks and Rec Committee. So so rather than have a full annulment, we're having a transition into a new committee.
I think that's the intent of what.
I think that's the intent, but in terms of in terms of really conveying the proper intent to the public from a lot of councillors around the table, I think it would be a good idea to have it become a transitioning bylaw rather than just doing away with the Greenways.
So what would you suggest we put it onto this?
Jim, do you have a suggestion?
Well, actually, it was a question more to Kathy, procedural. Is with the idea to do what Andrew's doing, we actually prepare Parks and Trails, and then at one meeting rescind one and adopt the other?
Well,
How does it work?
any committee that's established by bylaw, you have to repeal by the bylaw.
Okay.
And that's not done in one meeting anyways. It would normally be between 2 and 3 meetings to do such.
Okay.
I would not suggest with any new committee that we do it by establishment bylaw, but rather by terms of reference for a committee. Yeah, the select committee and council.
So, just following on that, we cannot amend the terms of reference on that committee because it's established under a bylaw right now?
You
or
can
we?
amend the terms of reference, but it would be done by an amending bylaw. So you have two choices. You can repeal the existing bylaw, which is at least a 2-meeting process, and replace it with a select committee, a trails committee, or you can amend the Greenways establishment bylaws terms of reference through an amending bylaw.
And that would be my choice.
Which one's best work for staff?
Best work for staff would be a repeal bylaw and then establishing a select committee.
Looking at the other communities around, most communities have their
to adjust them. We had a Parks and Rec commission because we had that before, and the letters patent told us we had to keep it going. But as has been mentioned, there was a dichotomy between the two mandates, and so it's probably better to go forward. So my druthers would be to repeal the bylaw and have a second motion or an additional paragraph directing staff to bring forward terms of reference for Parks, Trails, and Greenways Advisory Committee. Select committee. And that means and looking at the bylaw, I think they have been acting quite autonomously, and one of the comments that was in, I was one of the ones that had difficulty with this bylaw in the first place. The paragraph, the very last task for this committee was the committee is expected to deliver specific items.
Can I pause for a sec? Which bylaw?
The establishment
Greenways.
bylaw for the Greenways committee.
Or the Greenways Committee, not Parks and
Yeah,
Trails.
and this part of, I think, this part of the process has never happened. The work plan shall be developed in consultation with staff and the council liaison. The Greenways Advisory Committee work plan shall be presented to council for approval, and that has never happened. And I think that's part of the problem, along with the words shall in here, where it's not as clear that it's an advisory committee to council.
Given the importance of that, can you read that again, Alice? If you don't mind?
Well,
The
all I'm
last
saying
paragraph.
Yeah, I just want to hear
I
that
think
again.
this is just good process that we should have in all the terms of reference. That the committees have to prepare an annual work plan telling council what they're gonna be working on. So that they don't go off working on something that council has no desire or appetite for them to look at. So, and that was clearly in this bylaw, and it's never happened.
Right, and given the policy creation aspect of this committee,
Yeah.
that definitely should have happened.
Yeah, and the bylaw itself, as I say, I have, the wording is, the use of the word shall and some of those other things. It was pointed out to me that greenways are more than just parks and trails, it's the green linkages for the deer and the animals and so forth, the frogs and tadpoles and all those other things. So, to say parks, trails, and greenways advisory committee. So, I would suggest, now I'm gonna get back to the front page, that the motion have another paragraph added to it. So the first part would be that staff be directed to prepare a repeal bylaw, remember? A Bowen Municipality Greenways Advisory Committee establishment bylaw, and the council directs staff to bring forward terms of reference, to bring forward at the same time, terms of reference for a Parks, Trails, and Greenways Advisory Committee.
Select.
Select advisory committee.
I'm good with that. Yes.
It may be premature to be talking about it, but I think it's germane for the community. In the creation of the terms of reference, it's my view that the notion of environmental stewardship should be embedded into the terms of reference. But as you point out, the policy decision making aspect of greenways should not be there. They're more or less making they're submitting reports to council rather than creating policy and then asking for adoption. So I just want to make sure that the concept of environmental stewardship is embedded into the terms of reference.
I'm good with that.
I would second the motion as amended.
Thank you.
Reread
Any,
it? Are you okay?
I think we're,
I think it'd be good to.
Reread it one more time?
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
one more time?
That staff be directed to prepare a repeal bylaw for Bowen Island Municipality Greenways Advisory Committee Establishment Bylaw number 216/2008 for council's consideration, and that council directs staff to bring forward at the same time a terms of reference for Parks, Trails, and Greenways Select Advisory Committee.
Question? Question? All those in favor? Thank you.
Casey, I'll go get them if you get my phone.
Okay.
Our next item of business is the bed and bell permits. Oh, we do too.
No, But we should tell them it's
I'll let them know.
Voltaire is on, yeah, you're gonna know.
Oh, sorry, Councilor. I wasn't ignoring you.